All right. So thanks for joining me today to do this little highlight reel review of the Groove Kitchen. And so let's start by letting everybody know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to be doing this, Bridgette. So my name is Lisa Hatlestad, and I'm a master certified coach. And up until just these past few months, I've mostly been full-time contract coaching and training coaches for an organization. Um, and now that that's come to an end, I'm really finding my own way. I don't think I've given myself a lot of space to really understand what it is that feels congruent with me. And so I'm in a space of discovery right now, but I mostly work one-to-one with private clients and really enjoy that.
I think you may have kind of previewed a little bit, but what was going on for you that made you interested in joining the Groove Kitchen?
I have been in two iterations or two rounds of your Groove Kitchen. And the first time, what was going on for me was a lot of push pull around, like I had so much resistance to just everything having to do with having a business. I felt a little bit hurt and a little bit stunned from some things that were coming through for me. And having worked with you one-on-one before, I felt like the Groove Kitchen was going to be a good place to just be able to bring that and talk about it as little or as much as I wanted. And that really applies to this second round that we just are finishing up too. Yeah, it's just been an incredible community for me to be in, and I'm grateful for it.
Hmm. And so what were your favorite parts about the Groove Kitchen?
I think the community for sure, it just felt really medicinal for me to be with other women. Like I thought I came from kind of this driven background where you just make decisions and you act on them and you don't screw around and you don't say you don't know. And I suspect that a lot of people in that community were feeling like me, but it really felt like I was all alone and that there was something wrong with me. And I was just kind of a misfit altogether, which didn't make anything easier. So being in a community with all of these women that are just very heart led, and hearing some of my own thoughts reflected back to me through their experiences and being able to share mine and know that that was also kind of hitting the heart of some of their experience was really nourishing for me. I think the other thing, Bridgette, was just the way that you approach things.
Say more.
Yes, I will. Say more.
Tell
Come
me
on.
about me.
Right. Yeah. Like everything that comes from you in my mind is just so beautifully grounded and real. And there felt like there was just so much space to get in touch with who I really was and what I was really feeling, because I felt like in other spaces I've been, there is sometimes the impulse to hold back and pretend that I'm not really having the thoughts and experiences that I am having.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because that's my favorite thing about the Groove Kitchen is I want to create spaces where people can come together in community, because we don't have, even our spouses or the people in our daily lives aren't always on the path in the same way that we are. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, and we don't have necessarily churches or places in the community to go. We're in this weird in between time. And so I think it's really important to have a place where you can really be yourself. You know, a lot of folks that come into the Groove Kitchen are on the solopreneurial journey, which is really kind of a way to walk a more spiritual path. I love hearing that it is a safe space and that people can be themselves, because I've been in those spaces too, where you have to pretend like you have all your crap together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard enough to feel that anxiety, fear, whatever's coming up inside, and then to have to sort of put on this front in this group, so that you can have some semblance of belonging, just to me compounds the issue. So I agree. To me, like, my favorite thing are the community calls, and first and foremost, people connecting. And it's almost hard to talk about the Groove Kitchen because that is the magic of it, is just this space where, Parker Palmer talks about when you have a space like that, your soul feels safe to emerge.
That's exactly it. I think is, it's not like right away I came and, oh, this is the perfect spot, even though I sensed that, but it did. I think even just being in the space for me, let some things come out that I had been working on in my mind. But, it was really a lot of pushing back at myself. And I don't even know how to describe that. But I found really authentic part of myself came out, so to speak. And, I've been in other communities too, where I think the space was there to do that. But there's something about the container of the Groove Kitchen and the way that you hold it. It isn't just coming there and spinning around and, kind of being left to die the death of 1,000 cuts, right? There's something, I think it's just the signature of a really well-held space.
Thank you. I get a lot of recovering hard drivers coming. Obviously, I am a recovering hard driver. And so when you talked about those sort of more performative communities, and it's like we're so hungry to let that go, but we don't really know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm watching folks in the Groove Kitchen figure out, and I'm helping and supporting them to do that. But it's like, how do you let that go? And then I think what can happen too in some of those groups is you can end up sort of wallowing in emotionality. I think that's kind of, so we also have like, okay, this is how we're going to move forward and use our will and our energy in service of our soul, but we're going to keep going and, try not to swirl, or if you're swirling, actually being able to rest into what's coming up for you rather than that kind of spinny anxiety feeling.
Yeah, totally. And when you were saying about being driven and wanting and just desiring to let that go, a lot of times what it looks like from the outside is it's either drive yourself or it's fail. So the thought of letting go, like the thought of doing what you really know that you need and want to do, feels like, okay, I'm done. And I've really just appreciated how you've held all of the threads, that aren't just black and white and this way and that way.
Yeah, it's really, how do you live in a gray world? Like, what does that look like? Yeah. And so what's changed for you as a result? What's happening for you now?
Number one, I literally felt like I was in this corner. Like I felt very cornered and pressured. And I think what's changed most for me is that I'm just starting to see that I can have what I want, that I don't have to rush it, that I can move toward what feels congruent to me and know that other people will be congruent with us without abandoning some of the things that, I need to do in order to even for people to know who I am, what I offer, how to work with me. So I think there's a softness and just not so much resistance to business as a concept as there was for me. And that's really huge. And then the other thing that's changed for me is just getting out of this really narrow tunnel that I had myself in about this is the way it has to look like. And if it doesn't look like that, then you're going to fail. It's had this little tribe of people wagging their head in disappointment at my not wanting to go with things that are talked about that we have to do.
No, it's like this internalized dogma. Well, and externalized too. I mean, there's definitely the external voices telling us it has to look this certain way. And so, yeah, I'm really glad to hear that's landing for you, because I think you have a special kind of magic that doesn't fit into a conventional container, and I think you even just give yourself some space and some grace to discover who you are in this iteration and how you want to share, and to take the time to recover your spirit. I think we talk about resting but we also don't know how to do that very well, and how to give ourselves space and grace, and still, you can do that and you can still feel like you're moving forward, but in a way that is regenerative rather than soul sucking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know that. And thank you. Oh, I just don't know that I would have made room in my idea of what my career should be for what just feels very authentic to myself without without spaces like the Groove Kitchen. They're just, looping back around to like, we just don't have enough communities like that. And in a community like that, I think the healing from whatever it is that you are feeling ground down by, and the discovering and opening to all happen.
I love how you put that, because I can think of everybody in the group and there was some aspect of healing and discovery, Yeah, I really like that. Thanks for adding that piece. Do you have any final thoughts about the Groove Kitchen, your experience, what you would want people to know about it?
I just think, I'm thinking back to a conversation, Bridgette, that you and I had on my On Again, Off Again podcast about wayward coaches. And, that's exactly, I think that you and I had talked about, like we had used that phrase in some of our talking, because there is this feeling that we're either doing what's quote unquote right, or that we're supposed to do, or that we're the rebels that are kind of standing with our backs against the brick schoolhouse smoking a cigarette, and we're too cool for school and we're never going to get in. Yeah, this is where my brain goes. But so I think, like, I know that you're going to be doing Groove Kitchen again, and I am thinking I might want to be in that space again. And I just want to really encourage anybody else who is feeling like they're outside looking into this world that both is like feels completely inaccessible and also a little bit draining or soul killing for them, that there is a space for you. And the Groove Kitchen is such a great place to step in and start trying that on.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's so perfect. We had been joking on your podcast about the home for wayward coaches, and it really is, Yeah. So definitely for folks that are not feeling the conventional coaching culture vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's just something really special about a community where you can show up as yourself fully, and you're not come at.
Yeah.
And you're also not dismissed or, like we were talking about earlier, encouraged to stay in the spin. It's just a really beautifully vibrant, supportive community to be in.
I think we should just end on that note. Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Bridgette.